I found the hidden camera file the moment the janitor said my name like he already knew it. The hospital parking garage in Plano, Texas, has a way of making you feel like you're walking underground even in daylight. The concrete eats sound. The air tastes like exhaust and disinfectant drifting down from the loading bay. I remember tightening my grip on the discharge folder, my granddaughter's folder, technically, because it felt like the only thing in that whole place I still controlled. My daughter, Mallory, walked a step ahead of me with her purse tucked under her arm like a shield. She kept her voice soft for appearances, soft for nurses, soft for strangers, soft for the kind of people who looked like they might recognize her from her church committees. "Dad," she said without looking back, "let's not make a scene." I hadn't made one. Not yet. Behind us, my granddaughter, Edison, was being wheeled out by a transport aide, pale and compliant, her phone clutched in one hand like it was the only lifeline she trusted. 14 years old. Appendectomy. Routine, the surgeon said. But routines don't explain the way my daughter's husband, Grant, had argued with billing while Addison was still groggy. They weren't arguing about money they didn't have. They were arguing about money they thought was theirs. We reached the elevator bank that dropped straight to the garage levels. The doors opened. A janitor stepped out pushing a gray cart with a mop bucket and a trash bag, swinging like a pendulum. He was older than most of the staff, thick shoulders, work boots scuffed to raw leather. His badge said Hector. He didn't smile. He didn't speak to Mallory or Grant. He looked directly at me. "Mr. Klein?" he asked. Mallory stiffened. Grant's eyes narrowed like a man who didn't like anyone knowing names he hadn't provided. I didn't correct Hector when Grant said, "Who are you?" as if the hospital belonged to him. Hector's gaze never left mine. "You need to see this," he said quietly. The elevator doors started to close. Hector put his hand out, not dramatic, just firm, and stopped them. Mallory's tone sharpened. "We're leaving. My daughter needs rest." Hector nodded like he understood the script. "It'll take 2 minutes," he said. "Or it'll take you 14 days to fix it." 14 days. He said it like a deadline somebody else had already set. I watched my daughter's face flicker, one heartbeat of panic, quickly masked by a concerned frown she'd practiced in mirrors. "Dad," she said, softer now, "come on." Grant stepped closer. Too close. "Sir, we don't know you. Back up." Hector finally glanced at him. "Just once. I'm not here for you," he said. Then to me again. "Loading corridor. Camera room's down there. I clean it. I heard your name. I'm sorry." There are moments in a man's life when the world offers him a door with no sign on it. You don't know if it leads to truth or trouble, only that you'll hate yourself if you walk past. I looked at Addison in the wheelchair. Her eyelids were heavy, but she was watching. She always watched. She'd inherited that from my late wife. "Mallory," I said calm, "take Addison to the car. I'll be there shortly." Mallory's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Dad, please." I held her gaze until she looked away first. "I'll be there shortly," I repeated. Grant muttered something under his breath, something about old men and control issues. I let him. I didn't need to win that argument. I needed to know why a janitor had put a number 14 into the air like a knife. Hector turned his cart and motioned for me to follow, and I did. The corridor behind the loading bay smelled like cardboard and stale coffee. There were scuff marks on the walls from gurneys and supply pallets, the kind of honest damage you only get in places that never sleep. Hector walked with purpose, his keys jangling lightly at his hip. I noticed the way he kept his shoulders square, like a man who'd learned not to invite trouble. "You said 14 days. I told him. He didn't slow down. "Because they're moving fast," he said. "Because people like that always do, once they think they have a reason." "People like what?" He hesitated. "People who talk nice and steal ugly." We reached a steel door marked authorized personnel only. Hector unlocked it. Inside was a small room with 2 monitors, a cheap office chair, and a metal cabinet. Not a full security office. The hospital's real security center was upstairs, more like an access point for maintenance feeds. The kind of place nobody cared about unless something went missing. Hector opened the cabinet. He pulled out a black USB drive and a small evidence bag. The bag wasn't official. It was a sandwich bag with a twist tie, but the USB itself was clean. I copied it, he said, from the camera that points at the billing kiosks. They don't think that camera matters. It's for vandalism, but it records sound. My stomach tightened in a way that felt old, familiar, like the day I sat across from a man in a suit and realized my business partner had been cooking the books. What am I about to hear? I asked. Hector slid the USB into the side of the monitor and tapped a few keys. The footage came up, grainy, slightly angled. It showed the billing kiosk area, bright lights, polished floors, the hospital logo in the corner. The timestamp was from 2 nights ago, after midnight. Mallory and Grant stood at the kiosk. Addison wasn't with them. Grant's voice came through the speaker, muffled but clear enough. "She's under anesthesia," Grant said. "She won't remember any of this. Just do what I told you." Mallory's voice low. "I hate this." "You hate being broke," Grant said. "You hate living in your dad's shadow. Sign it." Mallory exhaled. "It's not even my account." Grant laughed, the kind of laugh that pretends it's casual. "It's a custodial account. You're the mother. Your family. You can act on her behalf. That's what they said." "Mallory, they said you needed the guardian paperwork." "Grant, and we have it. The temporary medical consent. You signed it at intake." "Mallory, that's for treatment." "Grant, it's a signature, Mallory. It's leverage. Now do it." I watched my daughter's hand move. I watched her sign something on the kiosk pad. I watched Grant lean in, pointed like a manager correcting an employee. Then Grant said the line that made my chest go cold. "Once we get the beneficiary change filed, he can't touch it without a court fight." Hector paused the video. The room felt smaller, the air warmer. "Beneficiary change," I repeated. Hector nodded, eyes steady. "I don't know what that means. I just know it sounded like stealing." It meant stealing, not petty stealing, not borrow and apologize stealing. It meant reaching into the only thing I'd built specifically for my granddaughter and trying to reroute it while she was unconscious. I sat down in the cheap chair. I didn't feel old often, but in that moment I did. Not because I was weak, because I had been naive enough to believe blood made people behave. My granddaughter's account wasn't a mystery. I'd set it up years ago. An investment account held in trust, a clean structure with clear terms, designed to pay for Addison's education and give her a start that didn't depend on her parents' moods. Mallory knew it existed. She'd always known. Grant had figured out the details, and now they were moving. Hector leaned against the cabinet. "I wasn't sure," he said, "but then I heard your name again yesterday." "When?" I asked. "Cafeteria," he said. They were celebrating, talking about an attorney meeting, talking about the old man finally paying forward. I stared at the paused image of my daughter's hand on the screen. "What's your last name?" I asked him. "Ramirez." "Mr. Ramirez," I said, "you did the right thing." He shrugged, but his jaw tightened. "My daughter is 15, he said. "If someone did that to her, I would want someone to tell me." I nodded slowly. "You just did." He handed me the USB, and something passed between us that didn't need words. A kind of quiet agreement. You don't let wolves into the nursery and call it family. I pocketed the drive. Then I asked the question that mattered. "How do you know it's 14 days?" Hector looked down at his hands. "Because I heard them say it," he said. He told her. "We have 2 weeks before he notices." 2 weeks before I noticed. They thought I wouldn't. I stood up and adjusted my jacket like we were done with the routine errand. "All right," I said. Hector blinked. "That's it." "That's enough," I answered. "For now." I walked back toward the garage feeling something settle into place inside me. Cold and clear. Not rage. Not grief. A plan. I reached my car. Mallory was already inside hers with Addison in the back seat. Grant stood outside leaning against the passenger door, pretending to be concerned. He waved when he saw me, the gesture practiced like he was greeting a client. "You okay?" he called. "You got lost down there." I looked at him and nodded once. "No," I said. "I found something." His smile faltered, just slightly. I didn't tell him what. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten. I simply got in my car and drove home, with a USB drive in my pocket and 14 days on the clock. And while they thought I was just an old man wandering hospital hallways, I started doing what I'd done my entire career. Reading documents, making calls, and letting people underestimate me until it was too late. That night, I didn't sleep much. Not because I was panicking, because I was auditing my own life. I pulled out the binder from the safe, my boring binder, the one Mallory mocked when she was younger. Trust documents, account statements, beneficiary designations, powers of attorney, medical directives, the sort of paperwork that keeps your intentions intact when emotions get loud. The account was a custodial UTMA that I'd later transferred into a properly drafted trust when Addison turned 10. Clean chain, clear trustee powers. The trustee was me. Successor trustee was a corporate fiduciary, not family. And the beneficiary? Addison. Sole. Irrevocable under the trust terms, without trustee action. Grant's comment on the video, beneficiary change, was either ignorance or something worse. But there was a problem. A trick. Many financial institutions will process forms quickly when presented with something that looks official enough. Temporary consent, guardianship papers, a signature, a confident man in a polo shirt talking like he belongs. I'd seen it before. People don't hack accounts. They bully systems. I opened my laptop and logged into the account portal. Nothing changed yet. No beneficiary update. No outgoing transfer. That didn't calm me. It told me I was still early. 14 days early. I called the trust company first thing in the morning. Not the customer service line. The direct line of the relationship manager who knew my name because I'd kept 7 figures under their roof for years. "This is Walter Klein," I said when she answered. "I need a fraud lock placed on Addison Klein's trust immediately." There was a pause. The kind that happens when a professional hears the tone behind a request. "Of course, Mr. Klein," she said. "May I ask what prompted?" "I will email supporting documentation within the hour," I said. "For now, lock it. No distributions, no beneficiary changes, no contact changes, without my verbal confirmation and a notarized letter from me. 2-factor verification with my number only." "Yes, sir." I didn't exhale until I heard the keys clicking. "Done," she said. "We've placed a restriction. No one can move anything without your authorization." One layer. Then I called my attorney, Denise Harrow. Estate planning, litigation background, calm as a stone. She answered on the second ring. "Walter, this is early." "It's urgent," I said. Silence. "Then talk." I told her about the video. I didn't embellish. I didn't need to. When I finished, Denise was quiet for a moment. "They tried to exploit medical consent to access financial assets," she said. "That's not just ugly. That's actionable." "I want lawful," I said. "I want clean." "You want final," she corrected. "And you have 14 days. 14, I confirmed. "All right," she said. "Bring me the USB. And Walter, don't confront them. Not yet." I wasn't planning to, I said. I meant it. Because the double story had begun. They thought I'd walked away from the hospital confused and powerless. In reality, I was stacking evidence, tightening controls, and setting a trap that required one thing from them: the arrogance to keep going. By day 3, Grant and Mallory were in full performance mode. Mallory came to my house with soup I didn't ask for, wearing a soft sweater like she was auditioning for a devoted daughter. Grant followed with a folder under his arm. "Dad," Mallory said, touching my shoulder lightly. "How's Addison doing?" "She's resting, but you know how she is. She worries." "I know," I said. Grant opened the folder and slid it across my kitchen table. "We've been thinking," he said, "about the future, about what's best for Addison long-term." I didn't touch the folder. Grant's smile was patient, but his eyes were calculating. "You set up that trust," he continued. "That's generous. But we're her parents. We should be involved. We should be able to manage distributions. For school, activities, medical expenses." Mallory nodded, eyes damp on cue. "Dad, it just makes sense," she said. We're not trying to take anything. We're trying to streamline. I'm exhausted. I looked at the folder. What is it? I asked. Grant leaned in. A simple trustee adjustment, he said. Just naming Mallory as co-trustee. Shared responsibility. You'd still be involved. He said simple, the way men say, just sign here, when the paper in front of you is a knife. I opened the folder slowly. It wasn't a trustee adjustment. It was a petition draft legal language, requesting the court to appoint Mallory as sole trustee based on my advanced age and declining capacity to manage fiduciary duties. Declining capacity. They hadn't even waited a week. Mallory's voice softened. It's just in case, Dad. You're tired lately. I met her eyes. Am I? Grant cleared his throat. No one's saying you can't. We're saying it's prudent. I closed the folder and slid it back. I'll review it, I said. Grant's relief flashed so quickly he couldn't hide it. Great, he said. Our attorney said we should file within 2 weeks. Hospital bills, you know. Timing matters. 2 weeks again. I nodded once. Leave it with me. Mallory reached for my hand. Thank you, she whispered. I let her squeeze my fingers like she still had access to me. I didn't correct her. I didn't tell her I already had a copy of their midnight conversation. I didn't tell her Denise was preparing a response that would turn their petition into a confession. I simply watched them leave my kitchen, carrying their own certainty like luggage. By day 5, the smear started. It wasn't loud at first. It never is. A neighbor mentioned, gently, that Mallory seemed worried about me. A friend from church called to ask if I was doing okay since the scare at the hospital. My brother, my own brother, left a voicemail saying he'd heard I was having trouble. Trouble is a useful word. It can mean anything you want if you say it with concern. Grant was building a narrative. Walter Klein is confused. Walter Klein is stubborn. Walter Klein is holding money hostage. Walter Klein is risking Addison's future because he can't let go. All while smiling in public. Denise told me to let it happen. They're laying foundation, she said. Let them pour their concrete. We'll use it to bury them. On day 7, Addison called me. Her voice was small. Not weak, careful. Grandpa, she said. I'm here. There was a pause then. Mom says you're mad at us. I closed my eyes. I'm not mad at you, I said. Are you feeling better? Yeah, she said. Sort of. Another pause. Then, Grandpa, Mom and Grant, they keep asking me questions. What kind of questions? Like, what you told me about the trust. If you ever said I could change it. If you ever said it would help Mom and Grant someday. Her voice tightened. They want me to say you promised. My hand tightened around the phone. And what did you say? I said I didn't remember, she whispered, because I don't want them to be mad at me. I swallowed. Listen to me, I said, keeping my voice calm. You don't have to remember anything for them. You don't have to say anything. If anyone asks you about money again, you tell them. Talk to Grandpa's attorney. Can you do that? She hesitated. Will that make them hate me? No child should have to ask that. It will make them careful, I said, and careful is safer than angry. She exhaled. Okay. Then she said something that made the whole picture click into place. Grandpa, Grant said if you don't sign the papers, they might have to do something to make you. My voice stayed even. What did he mean? I don't know, she said quickly. He just said it, like a joke, but he wasn't smiling. I stared at the wall across from my desk, seeing nothing, hearing everything. Addison, I said softly, I need you to do one more thing for me. Okay, tell me the date of the meeting, I said. What meeting? The one they're talking about. The attorney. The papers. She sniffed. Mom said next Friday. At 11. She said we'll all go together because it'll look better. Next Friday. Day 12. They were accelerating. I thanked Addison, told her I loved her, and hung up. Then I called Denise. They're bringing Addison, I said. Day 12. 11 a.m. Denise's tone sharpened. Good, she said. We'll be ready. By day 9, the betrayal got uglier. Grant came to my house alone this time. No soup, no sweater, No performance partner. Just him, in a crisp button-down like he was going to close a deal. He sat without asking. "Walter," he said, using my first name like we were equals. "Mallory is stressed. Addison is recovering. We don't need conflict." "I agree," I said. He smiled, thinking I had surrendered. "So sign the co-trustee papers," he said. "We file. Everyone moves on." I looked at him for a long moment. "You're in a hurry," I said. He leaned back, spreading his hands. "I'm practical." "Practical," I repeated, "like signing medical consent and trying to use it to access a trust?" His smile froze. The silence stretched. He recovered quickly, too quickly. "I don't know what you're talking about." I nodded. "No," I said. "Of course you don't." His eyes narrowed. "Walter, you're making accusations. That's dangerous." "Dangerous for who?" I asked. He leaned forward. The warmth left his face. "For your reputation," he said quietly. "For your relationship with your daughter. For your access to your granddaughter." That last one wasn't a threat wrapped in concern. It was a threat. I let it sit in the air between us. Then I did something I knew would tempt him. "I've been tired lately," I said. He blinked. "Yes," he said cautiously. "I've been thinking about simplifying things," I continued. "You might be right." His eyes flickered with greed. "I might sign," I said. Grant's shoulders loosened. "Good," he said, voice smoothing back into professionalism. "That's the wise choice." "I'll do it," I said. "If your attorney drafts it properly, and if there's a clear plan for distributions. I'm not signing anything vague." Grant nodded fast. "Of course," he said. "We'll bring you in. Friday, 11. "I'll be there," I said. He stood, satisfied, and reached out his hand. I shook it. I didn't correct him. I didn't tell him I'd just agreed to meet him in a room where Denise Harrow would be waiting with the court reporter, the hospital footage, and fraud lock already in place. I let him leave believing he'd won. That was the double story. They saw me softening. I was simply stepping into the arena on my terms. The next few days were slow on the surface and razor-tight underneath. Denise filed a quiet request for a temporary protective order regarding the trust assets. Not against my daughter. Not yet. Against unauthorized parties. It was procedural. It was clean. It created a paper trail that I was acting in Addison's best interest. She also sent a preservation letter to the hospital's legal department regarding security footage in the billing kiosk area. That letter did two things. It ensured the original video wouldn't disappear, and it signaled to any competent attorney that we weren't bluffing. Then Denise did the part one respected most. She asked me what I wanted. Not emotionally. Practically. "What outcome do you need?" she said. I didn't answer quickly. In my younger years, I would have wanted them to suffer. To be humiliated. To lose everything. But that wasn't the point anymore. The point was Addison. "I want Addison safe," I said. "I want her money intact. And I want Mallory and Grant to learn they can't weaponize courts and hospitals like shortcuts." Denise nodded. "So we go proportional," she said. "We go lawful. We go final." On day 11, Mallory called. Her voice was sweet, but there was steel underneath it now. "Dad," she said, "I heard you're telling people Grant is stealing." "I haven't told anyone anything," I said. A pause. "Well," she said, "people are talking, and it's hurting us. The church, the school. Addison hears things." "You started the talking," I said calmly. Her breath hitched. "Dad, why are you doing this?" I could have asked her the same question, but I already knew her answer would be rehearsed. So I said, "Because you signed something at the hospital you shouldn't have." Silence. Then her voice went cold. "You don't know what you saw." "I know enough," I said. She exhaled sharply. "Fine," she said. "Then Friday is the end of it. Either you sign and stop this, or we do what we have to do." There it was again. What we have to do. I let the silence stretch until she filled it with her own fear. "Dad," she said, softer now. "Please." "I'll see you Friday," I said, and I hung up. On day 12, I wore my good suit. Not for them. For Addison. Denise's office was downtown. Glass and stone and quiet money. The The kind of place Grant liked because it made him feel legitimate. The kind of place I liked because it made people speak carefully. Mallory arrived first with Addison, who looked small in a hoodie, her eyes darting between faces. Grant came in behind them, carrying the same folder like it was a trophy. He smiled at me. "Walter," he said warmly, "glad you came to your senses." I nodded. "I came to end it," I said. Grant mistook that for agreement. Denise stepped out of her office, calm and composed. "Mr. Klein," she said, shaking my hand. Then she looked at Mallory and Grant. "Mallory, Grant, please come in." Grant's attorney was already seated, a younger man with sharp hair and an eager grin. He stood quickly when he saw me, like I was the client. We sat around a polished conference table. Addison took a chair near the corner, clutching her phone. Grant opened his folder and slid papers forward. "This is straightforward," he said. "Walter signs, Mallory becomes trustee. We handle distributions. Everyone stops wasting time." Denise didn't touch the papers. Instead, she placed a small digital recorder on the table. Grant frowned. "What's that?" Denise's voice was polite. "A record," she said. "Given the nature of the allegations, we're documenting this meeting." Grant's attorney shifted. "Allegations?" he asked. Denise looked at me. "Mr. Klein," she said. "Do you want to proceed?" I nodded once. Denise reached into a folder and slid a printed transcript across the table. 2 pages, time-stamped. Grant glanced at it, then smiled dismissively. "What is this?" "A transcript of hospital security footage," Denise said. Mallory's face drained of color, so fast it looked like someone turned off a light behind her eyes. Grant laughed too loud. "That's absurd. You can't." Denise slid the USB drive onto the table. "We already did," she said, "and we've issued a preservation notice to the hospital. The original footage will be subpoenaed if necessary." Grant's attorney's smile vanished. He picked up the transcript, eyes scanning. His throat bobbed once. Addison stared at her mother. Mallory couldn't look back. Grant's jaw tightened. "This is a misunderstanding," he said. Denise's tone stayed even. "In the footage, you instruct Mallory to sign documents while Addison is under anesthesia," she said. "You discuss changing a beneficiary designation. You reference leveraging medical consent to access financial assets. That's not a misunderstanding. That's intent." Grant's attorney set the transcript down slowly. "Grant," he said quietly, "what did you do?" Grant turned on him, like a cornered animal. "Nothing," he snapped. Then back to Denise. "Even if that happened, it's not illegal to manage family finances." Denise nodded. "Correct," she said. "If you have authority. You don't." Mallory finally spoke, voice thin. "Dad, please, don't do this here." I looked at my daughter, and I felt something heavy shift inside me. Not hatred, grief, because somewhere along the line, she decided I was an obstacle instead of a father. "You did it there," I said quietly. "You started it in a hospital while your daughter was unconscious." Grant leaned forward, eyes hard. "Walter, you're making this bigger than it is." I didn't raise my voice. "No," I said. "You made it bigger. You made it legal." Denise slid another document forward. "This," she said, "is the fraud restriction placed on Addison's trust. No changes can be made without Mr. Klein's verification. Your petition to remove him as trustee is now evidence of an attempted takeover." Grant's attorney blinked rapidly. "You filed a petition?" he asked Grant. Grant's silence was answer enough. Denise continued. "This is a draft complaint for civil fraud and intentional interference with fiduciary duty," she said. "And this is a referral packet prepared for the county DA's office should we find any forged documents submitted to the financial institution." Mallory's hand flew to her mouth. Addison whispered, "Mom?" Mallory turned toward her daughter, eyes wet now, but it wasn't the soft kind of tears. It was fear. Grant's voice dropped. "You're threatening us." Denise shook her head. "We're offering you a lawful off-ramp," she said, "because Mr. Klein's priority is Addison, not your destruction." I watched Grant's face. He was calculating odds now, the way gamblers do when the deck changes. Denise slid the final document forward, a settlement agreement. Here are the terms, she said. 1. You withdraw the petition immediately. 2. You sign a stipulation acknowledging Mr. Klein's sole trustee authority and agreeing not to pursue changes. 3. You reimburse Mr. Klein for legal fees incurred. 4. You sign a mutual non-disparagement agreement with a clause that any future smear triggers liquidated damages. 5. You agree that any future requests for trust distributions must be made in writing, with receipts, and approved solely by the trustee. Grant stared at the papers like they were a verdict. His attorney leaned toward him, whispering urgently. Mallory's eyes darted between me and Addison. Grant finally looked at me. If I sign this, he said, you'll ruin us anyway. People will find out. I met his gaze. People only find out what you force into daylight, I said. Walk away quietly, and you keep your story. Keep pushing, and you'll learn what a subpoena does to a reputation. He swallowed. Then, in a last attempt, he gestured toward Addison. What about her? You're putting her through this. Addison's voice cut through the room, small but steady. You put me through it, she said. Everyone turned toward her. She looked at her mother. You signed, she said, when I was asleep. Mallory flinched like she'd been struck. I watched my daughter's face crumble, not theatrically, not like a movie, like a person realizing the child she'd tried to manipulate had seen her clearly. Grant's hand shook as he picked up the pen. He looked at me one last time. You think you're better than us, he muttered. I didn't argue. I didn't need to. I'm better at consequences, I said. He signed. Mallory signed too, tears falling silently onto the paper. Denise notarized the documents in-house. The court filing to withdraw the petition was submitted electronically before we even stood up. The clock stopped ticking, not because the danger was gone, but because the leverage was locked. Outside, in the hallway, Mallory tried to touch my arm. Dad, she whispered. I didn't mean. I stepped back gently, not cruelly, just enough. You meant to win, I said. You didn't care how. Grant walked past US without looking at anyone. His attorney stayed behind, face pale, and murmured to Denise that he'd advise his client to comply. Addison stood beside me, her hoodie sleeves pulled over her hands. Grandpa, she said quietly, am I in trouble? I looked down at her and shook my head. No, I said. You're protected. She blinked hard. Are Mom and Grant going to be mad? They're going to be careful, I said, echoing my own words back to her. And careful is safer than angry. On day 13, the consequences started landing. Grant's petition withdrawal hit the court record. Quiet but public. The non-disparagement clause meant Mallory couldn't keep worrying out loud without it costing her. The church friends stopped calling me with gentle questions. The neighbors stopped mentioning concern. Grant's confidence collapsed in a way only a reputation-obsessed man understands. He realized he could no longer control the story without triggering penalties. He started avoiding people. Mallory called twice and left voicemails that sounded like someone practicing sincerity. I didn't return them. Not immediately. Because the last part of justice isn't revenge. It's boundaries. On day 14, I met Hector Ramirez in the hospital cafeteria. I'd asked him to meet me there because I wanted him to see something. That doing the right thing didn't always end with the wrong people winning. I slid an envelope across the table. He raised an eyebrow. What's this? A thank you, I said. And a scholarship fund application for your daughter. Private. Paid directly to the program. No cash. No complications. He stared at the envelope like it might vanish. I can't, he started. You can, I said. Because you earned it. And because you reminded me that integrity doesn't wear suits. He swallowed hard, then nodded once. Thank you, he said quietly. I stood to leave. Hector asked, did it work? I looked back at him. It did, I said. They signed. He nodded slowly. Good. As I walked out, my phone buzzed. A text from Mallory. Can we talk? Just us. I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I typed back. We can talk when you're ready to tell the truth without asking for anything. I put the phone back in my pocket. At home, I opened the binder again and made one more change. One I'd been avoiding because it felt like admitting something I didn't want to admit. I updated my own estate plan, not to punish, but to protect. I ensured Addison would have a clear path, even if her parents tried again someday, even if I wasn't around to stop them. Then I sat at my kitchen table alone, the quiet settling around me like snow. Family revenge stories usually end with shouting, with slammed doors, with someone winning. Mine ended the way real justice often does, with signatures, with silence, with an old man still sitting at the table, calm, observant, financially literate, finally understood, and with one simple lesson I wish I'd learned earlier. Love doesn't excuse betrayal, and blood doesn't outrank boundaries.